Hey, today I'm at work, but over the weekend I removed the oil pan, checked the main and rod bearings, replaced the timing chain, and what else? I don't remember. A lot of stuff. But we started where we left off in the last video, and here we go. Okay, I loosened up the filter. Let's see how bad I'm gonna get drenched by it. Oh yeah, here it comes. I knew it. Of course. I should have done this yesterday. What size are those? Look like they're about a 13 or so. Yeah, probably. Let's get this off of here so we can drop it in the bucket. Alright. Listen, I don't want to get my equipment greasy. And I'm going to take these bolts out. Looks like there's a couple back here holding it to the bell housing. It's part of it. And get this pan off of here. So I'm going to loosen the bolts with my ratchet and then take my drill to it. And we'll get a look inside the oil pan in a few minutes. But I'm not going to hold the camera and try to do this at the same time. Well, it's been 2 days since I've worked on this car. Couldn't get the oil pan off. And I did a little bit of research. And they say to remove these rubber plugs. Which, I didn't see any rubber plugs at all. But they describe them to be in here. So let's look in that hole. Because there is a bolt, a nut right there. And there's a nut right there. And the pan should come loose. It's kind of tight. I'll pull these out and we'll see what happens. I have a feeling it's going to fall on my head. I got to let the camera down. Is it out? Not all the way. Almost. A lot of threads on it. The pan is off. Hiding those bolts like that. That's not very nice. Now, I need to turn this crank and remove a couple of these rod bolts and main bolts to see the condition of the bearings. If they're okay, we're going to leave them. Even though the car does have 300,000 miles on it. If they're good, we're going to leave them. If they're bad, we're going to replace them. And we got a new oil pump. This thing's relatively clean for this many miles, so really it is. Relatively clean. Alright. Let's get this, take the main cap off. Well, overall, even though there are a couple of scratches, and it looks really kind of weird right here, it's not down to the copper, and not too bad. So it's going to go back together, and I'm going to suggest to my sister and her husband that they, you know, maybe look into getting another engine one day, you know, within the next year or so, and just put this back together like it is. I'm going to put a little bit of assembly lube on this and reinstall it. A sample of one of the rod bolts. That brown you see is not copper, it's motor oil that's still stuck to the bearing. You can see along the edge it's got a little wear, but overall Well, that bearing's got a little more wear. But overall, they're not bad. Not bad at all. So, it's going to go back together with the old bearings also. I did remove the oil pump, and we're going to replace him with a sealed power 224-34-469 part number. Have to, well, when you remove it, it's a 5/8 bolt, a 5/8 socket on that bolt, and just let it slide down nice and easy. We'll reuse the drive shaft that goes to the distributor, but it did provide a new plastic grommet to hold it all together. So let's we'll drive this off. Method I'm going to use, I'm going to get some vice grips and put on here and tap on the vice grips to knock this loose. May have to just tap directly onto the tube and just slide it back up in here and drive him in with a screwdriver against this shoulder. Well, I got the pickup tube and reinstalled it. Just tap it in there. You can tap on it. Just don't smash it flat or anything. Just put a few licks on it till it bottoms out, and you see it's bottomed out. It's just a press fit, and not a very tight press fit. This, you just pry on it like this, and you'll knock this off. And actually, this one broke, but that's okay. Got a new one. You slide this tube onto your oil pump and give it a few taps with the hammer, and then you can put your drive shaft in. Alright, and tap it into place. You know that it's finished whenever you're tapping on it, and you get this sound. It's solid because it's against the pump. Now, before I finish up here, I'm going to pour some oil in here and spin the shaft until oil comes out that. And what I do is I hold my finger over the hole and pour it in there. And yeah, it's going to come pouring out and get me all dirty and be dripping while I'm installing it. But I'd like to know for sure that the pump has oil in it. Back in my old days, I would take the cover off and pack it full of lubricate. But this engine is already pre-lubed, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let me show you this. A tip about installing an oil pump on a Chevrolet. Well, my creeper's giving me a hard time. As you are holding the pump up with your other hand, reach in here and turn the drive shaft on it so it will engage with the distributor, and you'll know you're there. You'll feel a little clunk and it'll fall in place. Then, holding the oil pump against the block or against the main cap, go ahead and put your bolt in. Where's the bolt? This bolt in. And go ahead and tighten it finger tight so it doesn't drop down out of the oil pump, out of the distributor drive again. And go ahead and tighten her down with your torque wrench. Now we can proceed to the timing cover, which is up front, and a booger bear. We're going to have to take the water pump off. Hopefully I can get that water pump off without removing the fan clutch, because yeah, it looks like I might be able to. The bolts seem to be accessible. So now we drain antifreeze. Let's see on this radiator where the drain plug is, or even if there is one. See one on the driver's side. Yeah, there it is. Right there. Yeah, that's going to be all over everything. Yeah, it'll get a rinse underneath before I get back under it. Alright, let's drain the radiator. Much to my surprise, GM put a hose on that spigot. So when you loosen the drain, you're able to direct the water. Now why would GM spend money on something? It's very nice of them though. Now, in order to drain it, it's best to loosen the cap so the water will flow easily. And then you can take you a break while it's draining, because that's what I'm fixing to do. It's got me all sweated up. Well, we're going to replace the water pump and the timing chain. Matter of fact, the timing chain cover is why all of this is going on. So let's pull the pump off. Oh, I see where I cut my hand the other day. Right there. Alright, let's get this water pump off of here. We drained the water out. So we need to take loose the hoses for the water pump. Well, there seems to be one hose, two hoses. Let's take the hoses off. This is pretty straightforward here. A little clamp. And the same thing down here on the lower hose. Can you see it? Got it? Yeah. So 2 screw clamps and 4 bolts, and the water pump falls off. It's going to be necessary to remove this idler pulley, because I noticed there's another hose underneath, and it's got a squeeze clamp on it. So you got to get this out of the way so you can get to the clamp. Got the water pump off with the fan. We'll remove the fan later. And next is the timing cover. Look at that greasy thing. That is a mess. I can't even see the bolts. Can't even see the bolts. So I'm going to take the garden hose. I'm going to take some solvent to it, or some oven cleaner, and then rinse it down. Well, the timing cover is removed. There she lays. And as I suspected, the timing chain has a bit of play in it. There's a requirement to put this thing in time before you disassemble it and keep it in that spot. So I'm going to have to rotate the crank and get it in that spot. First I'm going to clean this stuff up so I can see the marks better. So what I use is my trusty oven cleaner. Highly effective. Don't get it in your lungs. A wonderful degreaser, no doubt. Boy, let this sit for a little bit and then hose it off. I missed the spot. There. God. Terrible. I'll be able to see the timing marks more clearly now after I rinse it. Alright, the oven cleaner is beginning to melt down, so I'm going to give it a spray off. And as you can see, it cleans up pretty good. No, I'm not getting water all in the engine. The oil pan is not on it. And yes, I know it's a little unconventional, but it is just water. And it will be totally dry before I put it back together. I'm not one bit concerned. I do not like working with a bunch of grease. At all. Replace assembly upon removal. Nice, real nice. Okay, we've removed the chain. Now we're going to install the new one. Get the mark straight down and line up with the dot on the lower gear. Oh, get on there. One notch. That looks like it. Hold on. I have to line this top one here. Wait, I think I'm going to get it with it in my hands. I don't know. So close. Yeah, it's on there. There we go. Now we'll bolt it down, but we're going to clean my bolts up and put some thread locking compound on them. And as you see, the notches are lined up, top and bottom. All right, some thread locker and torque down, and timing marks are right on, and not near the slack that the old chain had. A little bit, but not near as much. All right. Next will be the cover, and it's a new cover with a new seal, so it should go rather trouble-free. After you get the bolts in there, you put on your electric wheel for the crank sensor, and it goes with this ridge to the outside. It just slides on there. That's all. Alright, now you can get your new timing cover. There's the old cover. It says replace assembly upon removal. There's the new one. It's a Dorman part, I believe. Yeah, 635-502. Comes with a little bit of gasket sealer. I assume it's silicone, yeah, blue RTB. And a plug in case you're not using a crank sensor, and we are using a crank sensor, so there. Before you put the timing cover on, it's recommended that you put a thin layer of RTV on the block surface to enhance the seal. I'm not sure if it's truly 100% necessary, but they recommend, so that's what I'm going to do. I don't like the blue stuff that comes with the timing cover. I think it's just hideous, so I'll use the black. And I'll smear it around with my finger to get a nice even coat, and to be sure it's nice and thin, because you don't need an excess amount just hanging around. There. And then take your cover. I don't know if I can do this one-handed, and put it in place. Start a bolt, any one that you can, doesn't matter which, because you're going to put them all in anyway. I've noticed that sometimes when my sweat falls on my camera screen, it will trigger a different operation. I find that to be kind of funny. It has some dowels down in this area. Just give it a little to be sure it's on there, because you don't want it to be not on there. Now you can take your tightening equipment, whatever you may use. Don't get too crazy, because you want to make sure it's down nice and even. There we go. I think the specifications are 101 inch-pounds. Unfortunately, I do not possess an inch-pounds torque wrench. I should. Okay. Here we go. I'm just going to tighten it down a little bit. Not a whole lot, not too much. Don't want to strip any bolts or crack any plastic parts. But I do want it tight so it don't fall off or a bolt come back out. Get on there. Now that's on there. I could put the water pump on next, but I'm gonna get under it and put the oil pan on next, because I'm ready to get that closed up. As you can see, the oven cleaner does a really good job of getting rid of all the ooey gooey. Well, almost all. One more coating would have got it perfectly clean, but this is very adequate. I'm gonna put a little dab of silicone in the groove along here, just to enhance the sealing slightly. I've almost got the oil pan on, but I'm gonna tell you what, these little bolts in the very back, I think I need my light on. There we go. Turn on the light. These bolts up in here, they're a booger. Yeah, they're a little difficult to get to. You can't see it at all. Have to do it 100% by feel. I don't like it. I don't like this part. This is ignorant on GM's part. Something doesn't feel right. What do we see up in there? Well, I see. Gotta get, I see what we're feeling. Looks like we got a little bit of something protruding into the area. So all we got to do is get past that and onto the nut. It's kind of soft and spongy, that little spot. So it's tedious. I do not enjoy this. Finding that nut. I ain't finding that stud to put the nut on. It's not funny at all. God, where is it? Right past that. see here. Let me put a little pressure on it. Maybe. I'll know in a second when it bottoms out. That's it. I got it. Yeah, I want to let go of you guys. I got to grab my ratchet. Okay, I got them on. They're boogers. Now I got to go to town and buy one bolt. You see two missing, but one's in my pocket. It's going to be the sample. And somewhere or another, the little gasket for the drain plug got missing. So I'll pick one of those up while I'm there. And also a strap wrench for the holding the pulley on the, water pump. Hopefully that's all it'll take. All this other stuff will need to be bolted back in. These wire retainers. That needs to be tightened up and plugged in. I can go ahead and put the shield back on here. Hopefully it'll slide in there easy enough. It should. So let's go get that. Well, that's it for today on the little Chevy. We'll get a lot more done later, but the oil pan is on it now, and I'll do a little talk about that when I'm finished. I mean, on the next video. I'll do a little talk about that on the next video. You guys have a great day. I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and like the video if you like it. Leave a comment if you want to. Any kind of comment, I don't care. And man, subscribe. It don't cost you anything, and it really helps me out a lot. Appreciate it. Have a good night.